Governor, what do you see as your legacy going forward? Not necessarily for Michigan, but just generally at your governorship.
Well, I really, the legacy really is having laid this foundation for a new Michigan economy. We have 6 sectors that we have brought into Michigan, from energy, clean energy, life sciences, homeland security and defense, advanced manufacturing, film, and tourism. And then we have had this goal of doubling the number of college graduates in Michigan. And so we have completely reformed what kids in Michigan learn, K through 8, and then in 2007 we added the high school graduation requirements. And so now in Michigan, every single child is taking a college prep curriculum in high school, every child. And it was different before. Before, any district was allowed to put whatever requirements they were that they had. So Detroit kids were taught something different than they were taught in Bloomfield Hills. And now we have the same high expectations for every child. And as a result of raising the standards every single grade, reading and math scores in Michigan since 2005 have continued to climb, and they're at record levels now. Now they've got more to go. I'm not saying that we should stop, but it demonstrates that when you set the bar high, the kids will jump over that high bar if you teach to those higher standards. And the education community initially was nervous, saying that if you require every high school kid to take up to Algebra 2, that you're going to cause more dropouts. But in fact, what has happened is that the dropout rate has gone from 15% down to now 11%, at least in 2009, and we're waiting for the 2010 numbers. 70% increase in AP exams and classes taken in Michigan now. 70% increase because everybody's taking a college prep curriculum. Every child is now taking a college admission test. That never happened before. And since we required every child to take it, and we raised the standards, those tests have continued to climb. We had this goal of doubling the number of college graduates. Obviously, that's a longer-term strategy. Community college enrollment up 35% since 2003. Since the beginning of this decade, it's up 50%. So university enrollment, I mean, you know this, Michigan State University probably has a more limited number that they can take, but university enrollment is up across the entire state. So that's very encouraging. And then, I'm really proud of the fact that we have gone after getting adults to go back to college or get a degree. And so No Worker Left Behind has enabled 147,000 adults to go back to a college and get a degree in an area that is an emerging sector, and that's with the help of the federal government. And then the last thing I would say is, we are going to be leaving the next administration with $400 million in surplus. $400 million. Now, of course, that didn't happen and that's not a blame, that's just the circumstances that existed. Obviously, that's going to be a significant help for them. $250 million in the school aid fund, $150 million in the general fund. I'm really proud of that. And I'm proud that although we have been the state that has cut more than any state in the nation by a long shot, we have still protected the things that matter, like making sure that people were not cut off of health care. So I say all of that's a very long way of saying I'm proud that we've diversified the economy and laid the groundwork for that. Proud that we have had the goal of doubling the number of college graduates, and we are on track to continue to do that as long as we continue that effort. And I'm proud that during this period of wrenching contraction, nobody got hurt in terms of cutting people off of health care.
This has been a very difficult time,
yeah.
And your political opponents and some media have been very unkind to you, to all of you. I mean, as a family, but definitely to you because you were the governor. How have you handled that as a family? It's got to affect your children. They read it, they hear it. What do you say to them?
Well, I think the major thing that we've said is this is about public service. And so what our kids saw was incredible resilience, and they saw incredible focus, and they saw somebody who was willing to take hits and move forward. I mean, what better thing in the world? Now, they're not ready to jump into politics right now. That is not high on anybody's radar screen because they've seen the cost of that work. They've seen somebody get up every morning for 8 years, every single day, and put 10 million people on her back, and I think they've seen that lesson, and I tell you, it's ennobled me incredibly. Have I been angry at times? Absolutely, but the inspiration I've taken, the lesson I've taken, watching Jennifer lead has been extraordinary.
I would just say, though, it's been an incredible privilege for all of us. It's been an incredible privilege for me, and not, people say, given the hand that you're dealt, blah, blah, blah. Because of that hand, because this was a really tough time, I feel even more honored to have been in this chair, because I know that the values that I brought in making sure that we had a safety net, that we weren't, cutting people off of health care, that we were investing in the things that matter to everyday citizens, that we were prioritizing that. I feel enormously proud and privileged to have served during that time. And I think I think our family understands that and is grateful for that too. Yes, there are critics, but there's always critics. It's taught them to have really thick skin and to not take things personally.
I think people develop character too, Colleen. I mean, we've been through a hard time, but we haven't been foreclosed. We haven't been laid off. We haven't been through, cancer in the family and had to worry about, could we get disability payments? Will our unemployment extension continue? We haven't had that, but we've had challenge, and our kids to be the governor's kids, that's very challenging. How do you find your own identity when everybody's treating you as Jennifer's kid? But they're stronger people. 5 of us emerge 8 years later as much stronger people, I think. Grateful for the many gifts God's given, grateful for the ability to serve, certainly incredibly happy to have each other, and it certainly put us together.
And they've had a lot of great experiences too. Yeah, a lot of great experiences as a result of this.
Mm-hmm.
Governor, is there a specific issue that you're most proud of or quite proud of?
I'm really proud of what we've done in clean energy, and I think people will really see this, especially as we go forward. Let me give you a quick example. We obviously have tried to diversify our economy both inside the auto industry and outside it. And when I say inside, meaning that Michigan is now going to be the place where the electric vehicle is manufactured. And what's the guts of that vehicle but the battery, the lithium-ion battery. And this is different than your lead-acid battery that's currently in your internal combustion engine. Totally different battery. This battery previously had always been made in Asia. And it's the same battery that's in your cell phone. It's just this is much bigger for your car. Well, that was all going to be done in Asia until the Recovery Act came along, and the federal government said that they were going to provide grants to companies to make that battery in the United States. Well, Michigan, I asked the legislature to step up and pass these aggressive battery incentives. So we pancaked our state incentives onto the federal incentives and made Michigan an irresistible place to be the battery capital for the electric vehicle. And as a result, 17 battery companies have now located in Michigan just in the past 18 months, less than 18 months actually. Those 17 companies are projected to create 63,000 jobs this decade. Fantastic. We did the same thing with solar and with wind. In fact, I just announced that we had attracted the first wind turbine manufacturer. In fact, this is a wind turbine manufacturer that was an auto supplier that has now teamed up with a wind system company in Saginaw, Michigan, right near Saginaw, Michigan. It's a company called Merrill Technologies and Northern Systems. The bottom line is they're making these huge wind turbines for industrial use and utility scale wind generation. Very exciting. And we did the same thing in the Saginaw Valley with the solar industry. So all of this means that just since the energy bill was passed, I signed into law in 2008, and since the energy bill was passed alone, Michigan's attracted 48 companies in clean energy, and those 48 companies are projected to create 90,000 jobs. Those are just the companies that I know of that the Michigan Economic Development Corporation has assisted. That's very exciting for Michigan. It's a whole new sector, and it creates all kinds of jobs for all kinds of people. And you're here in this great house, and we've tried to walk the talk by greening the governor's residence. So we've got some of the solar panels on the roof. We've got a small wind turbine out front from one of the small wind turbine companies that have chosen Michigan, green roof, energy efficiency. It's all very great, and I think you'll see a lot of this going into the future.
Well, the inevitable question that everyone keeps asking you, I'm sure, and people ask me, and what are the Granholm Mulherns going to be doing next? And I'm not asking you for a scoop on this.
Okay. We're going to let people know in January.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's just what I was going to say. When are you going to let people know what you're going to do?
January.
Okay, well,
Don't say
it. Can't wait to hear. Can't wait to hear. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Just that we're going to be all right. We're going to be more than all right. We are a magnificent state, and we will always be a magnificent state. The future is very, very bright for Michigan. And I would just say to the people of Michigan, thank you for riding this train with me. And even though they may not have agreed, or they would have liked to have seen some other things, I want people to know that every decision that I made was a decision made out of love for this state.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, Colleen.